Welcome to ACC Nation, featuring sports news and special guest interviews. Here's Will Ojanen and Jim Quist.
Welcome to ACC Nation. Will Ojanen, Jim Quist, and we're talking football. Lots and lots of football. Hey, we're getting down to the end of the regular season. Can you believe that? I mean, it just seemed like yesterday we were doing previews and meeting some new people from 3 different schools. And wow, time flies.
Yeah, it's like, hey, welcome Cal, welcome Stanford, welcome SMU. Oh, the season's already over. One of you very well may be playing for our championship here in a couple weeks.
How about that? I told you at the beginning of the season, man. Watch this team. Okay, enough of that. Let's talk about what happened this past week, Will. We'll get into some extraneous stuff along the way, I'm sure. No problem. Clemson with a 24-20 win over Pitt. And to be honest with you, there's nothing about this game that impressed me one way or the other. I mean, Clemson came back, but it's still, this is, wasn't thrilling.
Yeah. If it wasn't for that Cade Klubnik touchdown run, we're probably singing a different tune right now. Just with the way that he just got out in the open and just took off with that game-winning touchdown. And even still, really the story of this game was defense. I mean, these two teams combined for 13 sacks and 29 tackles for loss. That tells me that either the defensive lines were really, really good or the offensive lines were really, really bad. And I think it's funny that Clemson in this game struggled to run the football so much. Only 58 yards in this game at 2.1 yards per carry when Virginia torched this Pitt defense last weekend. So I don't know if the defensive game plan for this week was different or what, but it's just always, fascinating to me how one team that isn't quite as good can have so much success on the ground, and in the following week, a much, much better team can struggle. It's always one of those fascinating things about football, and that's why they play them on the field and not on paper.
Indeed.
Exactly. Here's the start of this game. Antonio Williams, 13 catches, 149 yards, a couple of touchdown passes, was a big part of the win for the Tigers. He was pretty much had a breakout game. Clemson, actually, this was their last ACC game. They finished at 7-1 in the ACC, and they're not out of the race yet. They would need some help. And namely another loss from Miami probably to get into the ACC championship game. But yeah, I mean, it could happen, but
sure, anything can.
Yeah.
Don't count me in there as being optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
What you're talking about, the adjustments there, tells me a lot about the coaching staff. Coaching staff should be able to make adjustments in game while things are going on. They should be able to say, okay, let's move this over here. Let's do this. Let's do that, without having to go after a game, look at the video and figure out where you got torched, as you put it, torched, and then make the adjustment the next week. Yeah. So I'm just planting that seed because, quite honestly, that amazes me that somebody's not making those in-game adjustments. That's the kind of stuff that kills a team. And if, as a coach, you're not making those adjustments as things are moving along and you're getting, torched, you're not doing your job.
Yeah.
Something needs to change. So I've in the back of my mind, I just God, you know something. I just think it is time for Pat Narduzzi to go someplace else.
Hmm.
Yeah, I said it. I just he's just so
I
stuck in
mean,
a lot of his ways about doing stuff, and rubs a lot of people the wrong way. Um, I mean, they've had success with him, no doubt, no doubt.
mhm.
I mean,
Won
kudos,
the ACC, what, 3 years ago?
yeah, kudos, man. But you just get to a point where it's like, what's your threshold? You know,
Mm-hmm.
what's your ceiling? What's your floor?
Mm-hmm. And I would say they've hit their ceiling with the ACC championship, and I think now it's what is Pitt's ceiling nowadays? I have a hard time believing that they're going to be a consistent ACC championship competitor in the current landscape of college football.
Mhm.
Would it be just would you be happy with 7 wins every year, maybe rising up to 8, 9 every so often? What is it that you need? You have to define that now in the current landscape of college sports.
Things have changed, and we talk about this r- repetitively,
Mhm.
consistently,
Yeah.
almost every week about how things have changed so much. The transfer portal, NIL, so much that it's a whole different game. It's a whole different game in college, all college sports. And some coaches are looking at it and going, at Tony Bennett, made a smart choice, I think. It's sad as hell to see him go, um, because I think he's just an incredible coach. But he also looked at the situation and went, you know what? I just don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with
Hmm.
all this. He wants to be that pure basketball coach, and I don't think there's any place for those pure coaches in football, in basketball. Baseball is changing a little bit, not quite so much.
Hmm.
I don't know the other sports how they're being impacted by all this, but eventually it all filters, and
Hmm.
coaches have got to start looking at what can I do? How effective am I in dealing with this nonsense that I really don't want to deal with, in making things successful where I am? You have to have that conversation with yourself in the mirror.
Hmm. I don't know when that time will come for Pat Narduzzi, but I think whenever he decides he wants to go, I mean, that will be the reason. I mean, we remember a few years ago after they won the ACC and Jordan Addison up and left for USC because of it. And that didn't make him happy. And I just wonder how much of that you can take before you just
Yeah.
said, you know what, I'm done with this.
He's made a lot of adjustments. I'll give him that. He made the adjustments that were necessary to personnel to keep Pitt in the running.
Yep.
And but yeah, you're right. I mean, at
And
what point?
obviously offensive philosophy too, bringing in Kate Bell was a big change. And
Yep.
it's helped, yeah, especially early in the season, but obviously I think a lot of it now is maybe there just is more of a tell on the offense that you can do things with it. You can stop it. But I remember hearing while watching the game Saturday that I thought I heard one of the announcers say that the tempo has slowed over the last few weeks. And I don't know, like I haven't gone and crunched the numbers and determined how true that actually is, but if that's the case, then what was the point of bringing K-Bell in if you're gonna let him have free reign on things and everything goes great, and then you slow him down and your team struggles. I don't know.
All right, let's move. And let's look at the other side here. Clemson, Dabo Sweeney. That's another guy that's nobody would have even thought about talking about him leaving.
Mhm.
But he's kind of one of those purist coaches, and it's like all this transfer portal and NIL stuff. Maybe he's got people on staff who can deal with that better, and
Mhm.
he's doing okay with it. But the fact that he's not working the transfer portal, I think, is hurting that program.
It
Bluntly,
is.
I mean, come on, man. Uh, Everybody and their brothers out there doing it, and you're just not the dominant dog anymore in the ACC. Now, whether or not you're going to return to that position in the future, I don't know. If you're not going to play with that transfer portal and load yourself up, you're going to get smacked by the likes of Georgia and everybody else over and over and over again. And it's just,
Mhm.
you have
And
to make a decision.
I don't know if he will go back on it at all. I mean, I think something really drastic is going to happen, and I'm talking like this team struggles to get to a bowl for something to happen. I mean, they're already there. They're 8-2. They're going to beat the Citadel and go 9-2 and face South Carolina to close the season with an opportunity for a 10-win season. I mean, if they do that, win 10 games, no way in hell Dabo's going to change anything.
How's it feel when they lose to South Carolina? And that's a
Well, didn't
possibility.
they just lose to South Carolina? Was it last year?
I
I
mean,
think they did. So clearly it didn't not going to make much of a difference.
well, I mean, you can't continue to lose to your in-state rival uh, over and over again without somebody saying that's enough.
I mean, Virginia fans have been saying that for the past 20 years. So
Yeah, different situation there.
yeah, I know, but
I mean, really is. Sorry to get off, because at some point you knew I was going to get off track, but
yeah,
those
but
two
I think that's
coaches.
healthy. I think it's healthy to do sometimes instead of just sometimes, spewing out the stats and whatnot is fine. But getting in this, I think this is what people sometimes would like to hear us is just a discussion about this.
You know, I,
I don't think you're going off the rails at all. I think this is great.
I think both those guys. There has to be a conversation. There needs to be a serious conversation, and people can't go, "Oh, that's my coach." Anyway, let's go on to the next game. Cal was looking for that win that would push them further toward a bowl. But Syracuse was saying, nah, I don't think so. Don't think so. But good game. 33-25, the Orange over the Bears. And I keep seeing this push to, instead of just calling them the Bears, go back to the Golden Bears. I'm not going to do it. First year, you're going to have to earn your way there. If you want to be the Golden Bears, that's fine. You guys can do that. I think there's a small minority of people want to go back to that. So I'm not going to do it anytime soon.
I mean,
Bears.
nothing has happened in Cal football lately that makes you think they've been golden. So,
No,
I
indeed. So
mean, yeah, they might get to a bowl still this season.
I
We've
think
talked about that last week, but
they have Stanford on their. They're at
and we
five.
were like, oh yeah, they're probably going to be Stanford, but yeah, I mean, we'll see,
Stanford
but
is
it's not a given.
that's right, as you said. They're the WTF. By the way, Will's latest football rankings are out. They're exclusively at ACC Nation Radio. Go to accnation.net and click on the link there. It'll take you to streaming radio, where you'll find not only the rankings from Will on football, some basketball coming down the road as well, but also
Next week, actually, I'm going to give another
okay.
week of games with these MTEs starting up this week. Give a little more of a data point against similar competition. So look for new basketball rankings next week.
Excellent. Okay, and also you'll catch this program and a lot of others that we have that we do, plus the guys Jeff and Matthew over at All Sports Discussion have their podcast on our streaming as well. So you're going to get a variety of interviews, sports news, all kinds of interesting things there. Go to accnation.net and click on that link to ACC Nation Radio. Anyway.
Anyway, back to Syracuse Cal. So what do you know? Cal ends up in a one-score game again in ACC play. I think I put this out on Blue Sky last night on Sunday night. I think Cal's 5 losses now are a combined 17 points. Um, that's shows you that they're right there in every game. I mean, this one was a little more tougher because Syracuse was up 27-7 at halftime, so they needed the comeback to get it that close. Kyle McCord, another big game, 323 yards rushing. Did you know the ACC has the top 2 passers in the country in terms of yardage?
I did not.
I did not know that until like I was thinking somebody out of the Big 12. I thought maybe Shedeur Sanders would be up there, whatever. And then Cale Moore's number 1. Kyle McCord's number 2. Totally makes sense now when you think about it.
And for some reason, Cam is no longer really in contention for the Heisman.
Yeah, it's funny what one loss will do to you, even though I thought but I mean if you want to look at the Heisman situation,
Anyway.
I think it's Travis Hunter's to lose anyways. I mean, the guy is just a freak athlete who plays over 100 snaps a game on both sides of the ball and excels at both. So
Yeah.
I think it's his to lose, to be honest with you. But back to this, I think that's the 7th win of the season for Syracuse. They've, again, strong first season under Fran Brown. He got the shower after the game because they won. For those of
Finally,
you who missed it, he admitted he does not shower after losses. So
dude.
get that and get a nice big stank all up there, and then now that they won, he got to take a shower. So, but again, this is the thing about Cal is they are always there. They have a defense that's good enough to keep them in games, and like the offense hasn't been quite to what we thought to be, and a lot of that's just because Jaden Ott's been hurt. He just has not been himself this year. And Fernando Mendoza's been very up and down.
Yeah.
And he's had some good games, but then he's had some bad games. Like I think he threw a couple picks in this game. So he's just very up and down. And depending on which version of Mendoza you get is whether or not it kind of depends on, Cal, whether or not Cal will win a game.
Indeed. The Cal's, aside from these close losses, Cal has had a decent season and a good addition to the conference. I think that, if they keep on this path, this is going to be a team we're going to be talking about seriously next year. They're going to be in that top 5 echelon. So
yeah, so I think I don't know. I'd have to look at things a little closer once we get into the off season. But the Cal, like I think the thing about Cal is the Cal algorithm made them so popular with ACC fans this year with what they did on Twitter, and then game day getting to hosting, game day going to Cal for the Miami game. It kind of put Cal football on the map a little bit this season, both on the field and on social media.
it did. I love the Cal rhythm.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
Too funny. Our next game, wow. This is the what you refer to as the WTF team. Stanford over Louisville, 38-35. Stanford. I mean, congratulations, guys. Gosh, I mean, this has been an interesting season.
Well, yeah, look at their 2 wins. Like I said, they've been involved in the two most WTF outcomes of the season so far now, with that road win at Syracuse early in the season when the Orange were just clicking and looking great. And then now this one with beating Louisville. Um, it was just I think the thing about this game is just the ending, how everything led to
Oh,
that ending.
that was
Louisville going for it on 4th and 10 at the Stanford 45, and then going with it and calling for a deep ball, which I don't agree. I think 4th and 10 at their 45 at that point of the game, you should. I mean, I know it's probably not in Brahms' mentality, but that's a situation where you should probably just try to play for overtime. I think it was too risky and it bit him. I mean,
yep.
and then the first play of the Stanford possession after they get it back was a 1 yard pass, but then it was the unsportsmanlike for holding on to the player's leg, so that gave him 15 more yards, and it set him in position for a 57-yard field goal, which Louisville promptly jumps off sides on. So it made it a 52-yard field goal, which kicker nailed. So and Stanford set a season high in yards against an FBS team with in this game against Louisville. Hassan Daniels was probably his best passing game, 298 yards, 3 touchdowns. Funny thing, they actually struggled to run the football in this game. They've been a pretty good running team all season, but they only averaged 2 yards per carry. Emmett Mosley, 13 catches, 168 yards, and 3 touchdowns. That was a huge, huge game for the freshman wide receiver. Um, that was that was a huge win, momentum wise for Stanford. Obviously, they're not going to a bowl this year unless I guess they could if like there aren't enough 6-6 teams, and I'm sure their like APR would get them high enough and bowl, would be high enough that they would be bowl eligible. I don't know how that all plays out anymore, but I I mean it's still like a huge win to build momentum towards the off season. And Louisville, I really don't know what to say. That was a game you should have won, and you are significantly more talented than Stanford is. You should not have lost that game.
Nothing like shooting yourself in the foot.
Yeah, pretty
You know,
much.
just stupid stuff,
And it
stupid.
goes down to what I feel like I said before. It feels like Louisville plays to the level of their opponents. They do it a lot, and
I
I
don't get
just
that mindset.
I don't know why, but it's just like with the outcome here. Remember they hung with Miami the whole time. They needed a late touchdown to beat Virginia. I mean they played a lot of close games that on paper they should be winning by a lot more.
Yeah. That it's yeah, it doesn't make sense, especially with the coaching staff that they have. I don't know.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what
Should be
happens
they
next
should be better, but yeah, I got a hunch they're probably gonna change defensive coordinators in the offseason. This is something that our friend Matthew has actually been on a little bit. They figured they might make a change there after the season, and after a performance like this, I think that's magnified.
year. Yeah, definitely active. Our next game, w- what I say, SMU, Boston College. Watch out. This is a team that's going to bite you in the butt. And what happened? Well, they came
Mhm.
away with a win, but I tell you what, SMU 38, Boston College 28. Good performance. I'd say by both teams, Boston College was playing a lights out, kind of off and on at times, but SMU just did not have an answer until they really needed to find it. And then, mark of a good team is that when you're down, that you can come back and close the deal.
I mean, I give a lot of credit to Boston College for being as feisty as they were in this game. We didn't really know what to expect from them with the news of the week of Thomas Castellanos leaving the team. entering a transfer portal, and then Grayson James getting the start, which quite frankly, I think he's more of a fit for what Bill O'Brien wants to do offensively than what Castellanos said. And I thought he did a good job of trying to manage that. But I think when Castellanos was struggling, it it totally made sense to make the change. And I said this on both Twitter, or I think I actually just said this on Blue Sky, which, by the way, I'm Will's World MN on Blue Sky. Um,
Cheers.
I said that I thought Castellanos was being very immature about the whole situation. Um,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I know that you didn't want to be benched, but you were struggling. You it needed to be done, quite frankly. And I mean, yeah, maybe he's probably going to enter the portal after the season anyways, but
Should have waited.
should have waited.
You know, like
Your team needs you. But I mean, it's
suck
not
it
going to
up,
matter
let it
because he's
go.
going to go into the portal, go to probably a G5 school and just crush it because he's going to be hard to tackle at the G5 level.
Yeah,
Um, but again, a credit to the Eagles because they did things that they have not done yet this season, and I'm talking like a season high in total yards against an FBS team. This is the first time they got over 400 yards of offense in a game against an FBS team. That was a season high in plays run. This was the most yards SMU allowed on the ground this season, 180 yards. Grayson James up 237 yards passing, so he had a pretty solid day, and he did all right. Like I said, he's probably more of a fit for what Bill O'Brien wants to do, but I also just don't think they have the receivers to do
yeah,
what he wants to do. So we have to combine and kind of factor that in. Again, SMU, there, Kevin Jennings has been, I guess you could say, a godsend because who knows what this team like at Preston Stone's been starting. I mean, he's come in there and just been, he won't get like a lot of player of the year recognition, but SMU is not in the spot they are in without him.
without him. That's right.
Um, 298 yards passing in this game, 3 touchdowns. Brashard Smith, 120 yards on the ground, another strong game. And SMU, 6-0 in the ACC. Their final two games are at Virginia and the Calgorhythm.
Yeah.
They're going to be. I mean, I think the opening. I have not seen an updated line, but when it opened on Sunday, SMU was a 9-point favorite, and I got to think whenever the line comes out, next week again for Cal or whatever, it's probably going to be similar.
Yeah, I would say that don't again don't overlook teams. Cal
Hmm.
being one of them because you know they're in a position. Cal is in a position where I think Stanford would be the game that's obvious to most people that will clinch a bowl bid.
Hmm.
However, when you've had that much frustration throughout the season and lost games that closely, and it's the end of the season, you're just going to throw everything you got at the top dog,
Yep.
you know, or top horse.
Hmm.
Um, mm, uh, I've been while I was here listening to you, I was trying to figure out where I had seen this. It was Danny Canal had talked about Castellanos leaving, and I'm sure a lot of people didn't see that, but he had such a great thought uh, structure on how this really didn't do Thomas any justice to do what he did.
Hmm.
Um, and I kept sitting there thinking to myself, man, if I was an NFL coach, there's an X beside his name. So
Hmm.
those are the kind of things that guys don't think about. They don't think about that big picture. I understand why, When you're younger, you're not looking long term. You're not looking vision wise at how something can impact you. Sometimes you just react. Um, I will tell you that knee jerk reactions are going to do you a hell of a lot of damage over your life. Don't do it. Take an extra deep, long breath. Count to 10 if you have to, and then talk to somebody who has good advice and has got your best interests at heart before you make stupid decisions. Anyway,
Exactly.
let's move on to our next game. Started off a little wonky and just continued to kind of get wonkier as the game went on. Notre Dame over Virginia 35-14 final.
Do we really have to?
Don't have to. We just
Nah, I mean, we do have to have a talk
it
about
is
it
what it
though.
is. Yes, we
Um,
should.
no, we really we on the Virginia side, we do have to have a discussion here. Well, first things first, this game was over from the opening kickoff when Chris Tyree fumbled it, and then Notre Dame subsequently scored on the ensuing drive. Um, Anthony Calandria was benched in this game. He threw 3 picks in the first half. Um, Tony Muskett came in, started the second half, and led them to the 2 touchdown drive. So, congrats to Virginia from for that beautiful backdoor cover. But this is, and obviously, Tony Elliott doesn't speak to the media until Tuesdays, so we won't know. Obviously, we don't know as of this point what's going to happen, but do not be surprised if there's a quarterback change for these final 2 games. If Calandria has just struggled of late, yeah, they got the win over Pitt last week, but not fully because of him. I mean, you, I mean, I don't know if Muskett's the answer either, but you're this close to bowl eligibility, and some of these guys, jobs are on the line, so it might make sense to try it. Again, it may fail miserably, and people are going to be clamoring for Calandria again, but I think the Calandria's completely regressed. Some of the things that the yellow stuff that he did last year, he hasn't tried. I don't know if it's like if he's playing more within the system and they're just not letting him be himself, and even when he is trying to make plays, it's just been a complete regression this year, and I don't know what the solution is. And that's the only other option is to try starting Tony Muskett for the final couple games. And again, no, it's going to be a tall order. We got SMU, and then to close the season in a night game in Blacksburg against Virginia Tech, a team you have beaten once in the past 20 years. So good luck with that. But on the plus side, let me just say before we move on, Jonas Sanker is a local kid.
Yeah.
Another outstanding game, 13 tackles. He's fifth in the ACC in tackles and has a chance to finish top 5 in tackles in back-to-back seasons. And when you look at recruiting gems, this is one of them.
Yes. Very impressive.
I think he'll be playing on Sundays in the near future.
I think so too. He is just very consistent, very good about what he's doing. And you can tell that when he's playing, he's seeing the entire field. He just sees the field, and that's a skill.
Yeah, there's some kind of kind of like a magnet for the football.
Yeah. So far, so good. I like to see him play on Sunday. A lot of people out of Virginia have played on Sunday, so why not? North Carolina and Wake Forest with the Battle of North Carolina going on there. 31-24 final score. The Tar Heels over the Demon Deacs. It's not been a great season for the Deacs at all. Hadn't been all that great for the Tar Heels either, but they did come up with a win, and that was enough to put them into a bowl.
Yeah, and the way things have played out over the last few weeks, I think that's huge for the North Carolina program because I just kind of wonder. I mean, maybe it'll come out that Mac's done, but it's you kind of thought it was definitely going to happen with the way they had been playing up until about 3, 4 weeks ago. And now things have changed. Let me say 6 wins. I think, yeah, not having a Drake May, for example, or Sam Howell, like the last couple of quarterbacks, I think not having a quarterback like that has really hurt this team. And yeah, you have Amari and Hampton, who, hey, you know what? Last week when we previewed the game, I said he would flirt with 200 yards in this game. 35 carries, 244 yards, both career highs. That man probably spent all of Sunday in an ice bath.
Oh, he's going to be doing a lot more Sundays and ice baths.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
But yeah, that was just a huge, huge performance for them, and they needed it. I mean, I said I just didn't trust Wake's defense to stop them, and that's exactly what they did. They just fed the big guy. Hank Bachmeier was injured in this game in the third quarter. I think it was a lower body injury. I don't remember exactly for sure. Michael Kern came in and finished, did all right, but like I say, Wake's 4-6 now. They need to win out to go to a bowl. And I think they have. I just don't think it's happening for them this year.
let's see. Who do they play the last 2 weeks? Miami, and then where is
Yeah, we don't need to go any further.
Duke? So,
Yeah, they're going to be underdogs, definitely underdogs in both.
yep. All right. Well, hey, coming up, I got a Thursday game, NC State at Georgia Tech. NC State is in a position where they need a win over Georgia Tech or UNC in order to get themselves into a bowl. And I would not count on Georgia Tech being that game. They're playing in Atlanta, and Georgia Tech is on a roll.
It's funny where how things can change so quickly with a team. Because I remember a while back, a couple weeks ago, I was like, oh, I can see a path to 8, 9 wins for NC State. And now we're looking at them, we're like, ooh, Georgia Tech and North Carolina to close? They're 5-5.
Mm-hmm.
They may not make a bowl.
Maybe
That's
not.
I it's yeah, things are not looking so rosy now in Raleigh. And there are I mean, we could dive into that another time, but yeah, Georgia, both of these teams were on a bye this most recent week, and Georgia Tech especially needed it with all the injuries. So, assuming everybody comes back healthy, I like the Yellow Jackets.
Saturday, we've got North Carolina at Boston College.
Oh, just kind of scrolling here, looking at point spreads. This is the lowest one. Carolina 3-point favorite
I'm
at
surprised.
Boston, which at BC,
Uh,
which is I mean,
surprised.
I think yeah, and honestly, I think it's a really tough game to think about. I mean, knowing the way Boston College played last week on the road, they're the home team in this game. And the question is, how does James follow up that performance last week? If he can put a similar put a stat line up, I think Boston College can win this game. I mean, they need it for bowl eligibility.
Yeah.
They're 5-5. They need a win. They
This is the game that I picked as Boston College going to a bowl, but they have a win over UNC. UConn is at Syracuse. Whatever. Uh,
don't sleep on this game,
I
folks.
I know it's I probably shouldn't
Like
bypass it, but
I I mean, Syracuse should win this game. I mean, UConn, yes, they're 7-3. It's credit to Jim Moore Jr., their team that's Yeah, this was a program that just absolutely looked dreadful for years, and Jim Moore Jr.'s coming there, and I think this is 2 out of the last 3 years they're going bowling. I mean, they really haven't played anybody necessarily. I mean, they did give Duke a game early in the season. That's about it, but and then lost by 3 to Wake earlier in the season. So, but yeah, I think this game on the surface, you should definitely take the Orange to win this game.
SMU at Virginia.
The the entry,
Let me preface
go
this.
ahead.
You and I have been at games at Scott Stadium and we watched one in particular that was an upset. And
Yeah.
I'm just saying, Scott Stadium has got a curse for visiting teams.
Yeah, I don't know. I want to be optimistic, but it's like, I had the sour taste in my mouth from Saturday and
Yeah.
and it's it's sitting there. I don't believe in them right now. It's something, and it's not like I don't believe them because they're they're facing a top 15 SMU team that's going for its 10th win, and in its first year in the ACC has a shot to go undefeated into the ACC championship game.
You
So
just put the
pardon me
curse
if
on
I
them.
do not feel optimistic about this week at all.
You just put a curse on SMU. Shame on you. That whole undefeated talk. Wake Forest at Miami. Yeah. Mr. Burns. Um, yeah, that's another okay. Uh, yeah,
Well,
how many
the point
points?
spread I'm looking at here is Miami minus 24.
That's what I was thinking. I was thinking 20 at least. 20, 22.
Yep, 24. And we've talked about how I do not trust Wake's defense, and they're going against the number one passer in terms of yards in the country.
Ugly.
He needs 506 to get to the 4,000 yards. Not saying he's gonna do it,
Uh-huh.
but it's he'll get it in the next couple of weeks for sure. Yeah, give me Miami easily.
Charleston Southern at FSU. Okay.
Well, I guess if ever there was a time for you to implement, all these changes and get everything, see how it all plays out,
Mm-hmm.
now is the time because in terms of just straight record, Florida State does not have the worst record in this matchup. Charleston Southern is 1-10. Their lone win, a 4-point win over Furman. Um, so this is their last game of the season. They're 0-8 in the Ohio Valley. If in case you were wondering.
No, I wasn't. So
Now you know. But I I mean, yeah, Florida State should win, but it's the great unknown of, how is everything going to play out with all the changes?
what was that team that came in there and beat them? That FSU that
I believe were you talking about when they were an FCS team? I believe it was Jacksonville State before they
yeah,
converted to
that's it.
FBS.
That's it. Yep. Anyway, so Stranger Things, right?
Mhm.
Stanford at Cal.
The game is now a great ACC rivalry. Um, Cal's a 2 touchdown favorite in this game.
Wow. I'm
And
sure.
according to I have this up on ESPN, the cheapest ticket, it says tickets as low as $137 for the game. That just tells you how how important this rivalry game is in just amongst these two schools. And we talked about, Cal needs one win for a bowl, and I think they're going to get it here. Although with the way Stanford played last week, it's not a given.
Yeah, Stanford could WTF them. You know,
Mhm. Hey, they've done it twice. Why not go for a third time?
why not? Citadel at Clemson. I don't think there's anything really to talk about there other than the Citadel is, um,
Military school.
yeah. Okay.
The only intrigue here is how many different players are going to play for Clemson. Because in these type of games, Dabo loves to play everybody.
To be everybody, water boy included.
Yep.
But I will say, look, it's like the Citadel and VMI, the two military schools. You can't, that aren't affiliated with
Yeah.
specifics. Um, that old tradition. They will play their hearts out in games, and they don't have the beef and the talent and everything else. But in basketball, they can certainly do that. But football, nah, ain't gonna happen. But it's nice that Clemson does that for the Citadel, because it puts money in their coffers, and it's sort of a tip of the hat sort of thing. Pitt at Louisville. Now this is a game.
This should be an interesting game because I did not hear an update on Eli Holstein for this week. I don't know if he's playing or not, if there's any question or whether or not, but I think the thing with me is, how does Louisville respond to this loss to Stanford? Um, it's it's an interesting thing to talk about, because they shouldn't have lost to that. They shouldn't have lost that game. Pitt, if they're on, will give you will give you quite a game. I mean, Des Reed is one of the most exciting all around players in the league. He will definitely be on an all ACC team at the end of this season. But this game being at Louisville, I'll probably take him, but I'm certainly not comfortable with it.
Should be close. I'd say 50-50. I'd flip a coin here, to be honest with you.
It's probably more like 57-43 Louisville, like in terms of percentage. It's like that's close enough that it's in doubt.
Yeah. Next game, Virginia Tech at Duke.
I was surprised when I looked at this and saw that the Hokies are a 3-point favorite.
I'm not surprised by that.
I am.
I can actually see Virginia Tech pulling a win here. I do, and it's a gut. But they're going to have to play their hearts out.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't know, I like the thing is Duke's got a really, really good defense. I think they can stop the run between both Tootin and Kyron Jones if they play. I don't know what their health status is, and obviously with the bye week that really helps them. And again, Duke, this game's at their place. I think I think this is probably the biggest toss up of any game this week to me.
See how that all ends up. Hey, once again, the teams that are headed to the to bowl action: SMU, Clemson, Miami, Syracuse, Louisville, Georgia Tech, Pitt, Duke, UNC. At 5 presently, it's Virginia, Virginia Tech, Boston College, NC State, and Cal. And ironically, I've got UVA and Virginia Tech. Basically, the team that they have to beat is each other in order to make it. Boston College, I say it's possibly North Carolina. NC State, it's Georgia Tech or North Carolina. I tend to think they're going to lose at Georgia Tech. And Cal, I think it's Stanford that they have to win in order to get that bowl bid. That's a lot of teams out of one conference getting bowl bids, and that speaks volumes for the level of play this season in the ACC. It's been good. I mean, you can't look at these records and say, especially the conference records, Will, you can't look at them and go, well, just because they've only won one game, or, well, other than, number 17. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if you look at their overall records, these teams have been playing some really heads up football this season, and it's been fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take a look at the coaches poll this week rather than the AP. Oregon, Ohio State, Texas, Penn State, Indiana. Those are the top 5. Notre Dame at 6, Miami 10, SMU 12, Clemson 16. Receiving votes, number 29, Syracuse, 31, Duke, 32, Pitt, and 34, Louisville. Just so that you folks down in Atlanta don't feel left out, the AP folks said at number 38 is Georgia Tech. So they didn't leave you out. They thought enough of you and your performance. 9 ACC men's soccer teams earned spots in the NCAA championship, 7 seeded. Pitt, Wake Forest, who won the ACC championship, Clemson, Duke, Virginia, SMU, Stanford, UNC, and NC State all headed on. In basketball, here's the latest top 25 action that includes ACC teams on the men's side, the AP. It's Kansas, UConn, Gonzaga, Auburn, Iowa State at the top 5. UNC is at 10, Duke 12, receiving votes 36, Miami 37, Pitt 44, Clemson. The women, it's South Carolina, UConn, USC, Texas, UCLA. Those are the top 5. Notre Dame at 6, Duke 14, UNC 16, NC State 20, Louisville 25, and receiving votes at number 30 is Stanford, number 31 FSU, and number 32 Miami. So relevant sports action in the ACC. And another week.
Yeah, definitely. And that doesn't even touch on all the basketball that happened either.
No, doesn't. That's and we're going to make that transition just so that everybody realizes this, because we're in the remaining 2 weeks. We'll probably think if we can pull this off, and it really depends on holiday schedules and whatnot, because the holidays tends to send us in different directions.
Mm-hmm.
But if we can get some football and also a separate basketball thing going, at least for maybe a week or 2, and then just totally transition into basketball, that would be fantastic.
Yeah. I'll just add kind of a look ahead to this week, and on both the men's and women's side, there are some good big games coming up. I talked about a little bit ago. We have the MTEs that are starting up later this week. We've got the Baja Mar Classic in the Bahamas. Virginia is playing Tennessee on Thursday there. Syracuse and Texas and the Legends Classic. You got Pitt LSU and Greenbrier. And then a non-conference game Friday night. This is going to be the game of the week. Duke at Arizona. I remember this is the second of a home-and-home series that Arizona won at Cameron last year. So Arizona on their courts, Duke coming in. Obviously they took the loss last week to Kentucky in that Champions Classic. Again, we know Duke is going to out-talent most people on a given night, but with a team like Arizona, they're going to struggle. Now, on the women's side, the one game to really watch for, that's coming up this Saturday. I believe I saw it's on Peacock. Notre Dame USC. Hannah Hidalgo versus Juju Watkins. That should be a fantastic matchup.
Yeah, that'll be a hot one. Ton of sports. And by the way, just as a reminder, go to the latest rankings, the latest posting on our page, accnation.net, Will's rankings of football, and you'll see a link on there that will take you to the ACC SEC Challenge, because that's coming up in early December for men and women's basketball. There's some great basketball lined up there, and you'll want to take a look at that story, which was posted some time ago, but not going to release the schedule. But nonetheless, good to go back, take a look at it, see what the schedule is, because a lot of games coming up. Just unbelievable matchups in that. It should be some really fun stuff to watch. So looking forward to that. All right, sir. Anything that you'd like to toss in? Kitchen sink?
Oh, just as we talked about earlier, we're both on Blue Sky, obviously at ACC Nation. I'm at Will's World MN. So yeah, join if you're over on Blue Sky, feel free to join us over there. I know a lot of people have migrated over there over the last couple of weeks. So join us. So if you haven't, give us a follow.
Yeah, and just to remind everybody, if you want to make it really simple, go to accnation.net. In the lower right-hand corner of our webpage, there's actually a link to Blue Sky. It will take you to our page. You can also, when you go there, you can sign up and become, active on Blue Sky. It's time to rid yourself of the darkness and go to the light. All right.
And those of you who are still on Twitter X, I'm still there. Just not as active.
Yeah, we're all there, but it's just there's a huge transition going on, which is not surprising. But and one of the things too that things I shared with Will, I have a system which posts all of our latest whatever is coming up on our website, and et cetera. Basically, that will distribute it out evenly among all of the social media platforms, and they're making some adjustments. I had a conversation with somebody today in regard to Blue Sky, and they are working on integrating that into their system along with Reddit, WhatsApp, and a bunch of others because they recognize that there's a transition going on. And it'll just make it easier for everybody, whether they're using the type of system that we use or not. But people who post basically are posting to multiple places at the same time. It's just going to make it a lot easier to get that information out to you and in a timely fashion too. So looking forward to that. Anything that makes it more efficient and less of a hassle and gets it to you quicker. Hey, I'm all for that, man. All right. We'll see some snow coming across the U.S. before long. And
Wednesday.
it's that time of year. So if you're out there, drive carefully, enjoy, and we'll be talking to you really soon. Until next time. Cheers.
School.
Thanks for listening to ACC Nation. Be sure to listen, like and subscribe to our podcast, radio, and YouTube channels by visiting accnation.net. Follow us on Instagram, X, Facebook, Mastodon, Threads, Blue Sky and Reddit at ACC Nation.
ACC Nation.